Hi, I'm Rakesh Malhotra. I'm founder at Livpure.
Tell me about your uh, how did that decision happen to not follow the typical career path, become an entrepreneur? Just take me through a little bit of your early life and what led up to you becoming an entrepreneur.
Sure. No, so I come from a family. My father was an IAS officer, so we are, the typical well-educated middle-class family that we came from. And the first port of call after my engineering undergrad was to take a job, and I did. And in about a year and 5, 6 months, I had already changed 4 jobs. The longest stint was for 9.5 months. So I was already figuring out that I'm restless and that I have to do something beyond being in a.
And what kind of jobs were these?
I worked for a Japanese company called Mitsui to start with, then Tata's at Nelco, and the last one was Siemens. Uh, yeah, Siemens, which is this industrial electronics and electricals company. And the basic problem was that I was just not willing to get, bogged down with uh, preset goals and timelines and outcomes that we had to work within certain constraints. So I felt that there could be more that can be done. And my own family was a little bit. My mother came from a business family in that sense that her parents and brothers, her father and brothers were in manufacturing business in Ludhiana, and my father was a career bureaucrat, and so initially in the family there was a divided view on what should be done or not done, but I decided to take the plunge anyway, and it didn't work out all that well in the first stint.
Which year
uh,
was this?
this is close to, this is 1985, so somewhere around middle of 1985 is when I started.
Well,
And
I would have been like a class fifth student at that time.
well, don't remind me of my age. All right. So yeah, so it was 1985, and and the first venture that I started, we had to close it down in 1987.
What was it
Uh,
about?
this was so we started. This was the age of early introduction of DOS PCs,
Right.
and we decided to build power backup systems or UPSs for that. So this was well ahead of its time. There was nothing like that in India at that point in time. We managed to put a product together in with very limited resources, and it took off well. And then after it started, we had trouble with the product quality and reliability. Because it was ahead of time, it got a lot of traction, but the maturity of the product was not that great, so we had plenty of trouble managing services and this and that. And finally we ran out of all resources to support it and had to take a call of shutting it down. So that was
And
the first one.
who is we here?
Oh, so I had a partner, Anil, who I had brought in after about a year and a half of starting that company. A year after starting that company, who joined me, and he was there for that run. But then that bruise was too much for him to handle, so he decided to go on his own way when we shut it down. And the next round was with a different co-founder, actually.
So, what was round two?
So round two was what eventually became Luminous. So that was in 1988 is when we started that business, and from 1988 till 91, I was alone in that business as a founder. I put it together, and then Navneet, who has since then been my co-founder and partner in crime in everything that we have done, joined in 1991.
And
So
in 1988, what did you build? What was,
so we
and
we
you
we
must have
went. Yeah,
gone through a
sorry.
process of deciding what you want to
Yeah,
do?
so see, the first venture gave us a platform of power electronics for power backup. Though the venture didn't work, there was some residual or a lot of residual value and learning out of what we had done in the first venture. And by that time, the one insight that hit me was that, look, uh, PCs of course will grow, but power deficit and availability of electricity is hampering not just personal computers but life in general in homes. So, and that set of market or addressable market is much larger than the PC market. So the big thought there was कि अच्छा उसके लिए बैकअप पावर बनाने से अच्छा है that you go after the homes. And that's how Luminous was born. We made a power backup system for homes, and we made it wasn't a new idea. There were plenty of people who were making gensets and inverters even before that. What we did right was created it into a consumer durables format. So we made a reliable product, we got it to look good, we brought it outside of the Barsati into the living room as a product, and that gave it profile, and that's how that industry got created actually.
So you were the first product which could be kept inside the house, which looked more
Yeah,
consumer durable-ish.
that's right. So it looked more like a consumer durable. It had reliability like a television would have, and it was getting service the way you would expect a durables company to provide a backup if you ever have a problem. So those three pieces kind of got the process started.
But it must have been a fairly difficult journey to reach there, right? Because uh, like let's take the example of service. You
Yeah,
know, to provide service at scale, you need a certain amount of cash flows to employ engineers and provide the
correct.
guarantee and so on and so forth. Like, tell me about how those early years must have been like, where you may not have had so
I
many
mean,
resources available to do things in a scalable manner. It might have been done more like, more
no,
hands
this
on.
is
Maybe you
one.
would have gone to do servicing calls and all. I'd love
Sure.
to hear that journey.
Sure. No, so look, one in the product reliability, when when you learn by making a big mistake and paying the consequences, you learn really well. And that's what happened in that situation. The first business, we had to fold it up. We were in debt. I was in debt, I should say, because I was the one putting together the debt, friends and family debt, basically, because there was no real backup of capital or debt at that time for a company like this, and so we started there, and we realized how important it is to make sure that that damn thing will not go wrong. So between 88 and 1991, it took us 3 years to get the product right, and we did not go to market before we got the product right. So we continued to invest time and effort and whatever resources we had done. So I had to do day job of actually selling products for somebody who was making larger UPS systems. A day job meaning it was a side hustle. I was selling that stuff for a company in Pune, which eventually got acquired by Emerson, and I was making money as commissions for those sales and supporting that activity. So that made decent amount of money. I put together an earning of around 4 or 5 crores in those 3 years, and which was a lot of money
Wow.
for those times, and that kind
Four,
of
five
saw
crores
us
just
through.
from selling that inverter. Amazing. You must have been a phenomenal salesperson.
I don't know. I mean, so we did good work. No, it's not inverters. These were large UPSs
Okay.
for data centers and corporate style stories. So an average of a 20-30 lakhs order, and then you put together a lot of them. So I had to do that. Was my day job. I used to do that during the day, and in the night we ran the business of developing products. That's how it worked.
Amazing. Amazing. And what did you learn about sales in that stint of selling the large format
So, so there,
UPS?
so the one job that a CEO or a co-founder can never, or a founder can never give up is selling, right? You sell different things at different times. You sell dreams first, and then you sell products, and then you sell shares, and then you sell something else. But you sell. nonetheless, right? Something you have to sell. And I think that you put the bread on the table is a learning that you get. And in those days, capital was so hard to get by, that you, and especially for people from our background, which was middle class background with no real savings. My father's provident fund was gone in the first venture, so the
Okay.
second one I couldn't do with his provident fund. It had to be done with earnings. So you learn how to do different things to survive. I mean, that's, I guess that is true for any startup. Even now, that's the same story actually.
But it's incredible that you didn't give up, even after being in debt, losing family money, and you must have had to hear, that people commenting and the
Yeah, yeah.
stuff like that.
Absolutely. No, so the choice was between hearing it for a few years till you succeed, or hearing it for your rest of your life. So I took the latter. I took the former. I said, okay, यार एक दो साल सुन लेते हैं जो सुनना है. Let me prove myself again, and once you're done, at least this will be over. Otherwise, you would have had to take it for the rest of your life, right? So.
Right, right. So 91, you were ready with your product. Then what? What
91,
was?
we were ready with our product, so we went back to the market. We started to sell only in Delhi first, and
What was the
then
sales strategy? Like door
so
to
say
door, or
no, not really door to door. We built it in through a dealer network to start with, a small one, very very small. We used to have 8 dealers in Delhi in all, covering the whole of Delhi. And now, when I look back and see, Luminous today has, I think, about 60,000 dealers across the country. So that's quite some long journey that has been traveled.
yes,
Uh,
yes.
but uh, but yeah, I mean, so few dealers. We invested on the brand. We used to do partnerships with Times of India and Hindustan Times on, that those were days of print media, when it was still relevant fully. So we took all kinds of, uh, frugal brand development approaches that we could take, different on both BTL as well as through ATL advertising. Got the product familiarized. We got some call center ready so we could explain people. We used to do road shows. That time PVR was quite a happening spot in Vasant Vihar, so we would do stuff around PVRs and this and that. So all kinds of stuff, and you could, I mean, it was a small setup, so I mean, I've done it myself multiple number of times for a few years till the organization got built, and we got to a point where it was really good. But I think we invested very early on consumer service, so it's a nice anecdote maybe for your story here. In 1996, paging services, uh, or 95, I think, paging services were started by RPG Paging in Delhi. And it wasn't the time of mobiles, it was time of two-way Motorola pagers. People would send messages and you could respond to that message on the pager. So we built a software and a service management system that we deployed in those days, which was the first 24-hour call center for any consumer durable brand. And when I say any, means any. So at that time, no Samsung, no Sony had a 24-hour call center, and this little tiny company called Luminous, which just started in Delhi only, had that facility. So we had amazing testimonials coming out of customers when people, sometimes they would get a service in 15 minutes after they call. Not always, but sometimes. So this is like, because we knew where our technician was at that point in time, we were connected to that guy, and we had a call allocation system where we knew when he would have finished his call. So if a customer called and he was like, 1 kilometer away and he had just finished his call, he could actually show up at the customer's door in 15 minutes. And that was, that was unheard of at that time. I think it's unheard of even now that you get a call service call like that done, right? So that gave us a huge sort of swell from the ground in terms of what the brand stood for, and that stayed with the brand. In fact, Luminous continued to build on that base foundation of the brand into becoming a trustworthy, solidly dependable brand that it became eventually. And then we, in 2010, we brought Sachin Tendulkar as a brand ambassador and changed our line to Jispe Desh Kare Bharosa, and took away from Sachin's credibility and added the brand credibility together, and then it became completely, intertwined. Even now, Sachin endorses Luminous, even after all these years, 13 years
Wow.
later.
Amazing, amazing. So, in 1995, you were still in Delhi. What kind of revenue were you doing?
95, 96. I think we were about 2.5 crores in revenue at that time, I would imagine. I mean, I might be wrong by
Yeah,
few lakhs, a
rough.
long time
Abs-
ago,
Yeah,
but
I understand.
yes, it was a small company. And the big turning point for us came in 2004 5. We used to buy batteries for our inverters from Excite, and Excite started giving us trouble in terms of product quality, deliveries, all kinds of things. And then we realized that we are dependent on their performance for our brand equity. That was not an equation that was looking good. So, so we had to take a call. By this time, we are like about a 70-80 crore business, making about, think about 4 5 crores in EBITDA. And
And pan India or like,
no,
okay.
mostly north at that time. But we were now in about 30 40 cities, and we had some presence of around 4 500 dealers. That's where we were. It's still tiny compared to what it turned out to be eventually, but it was now a well established brand in some pockets of the country. And we were getting into trouble with batteries, and we had to take a call that we have to invest in learning and then manufacturing our own batteries, which was a massive leap for a company that size. We had to invest about a 70 odd crores of capital into building a factory, first factory, and that is something we had no money for. And after having built it very, judiciously, one brick at a time, uh, and not taking undue risk on anything, product, brand, service, people, for many many years, from 1988 till 2004. That's already, some 16 years of build out. Then we had to take a make or break call, where we had to put all in into risk again, one more time. And we actually went and borrowed money from a public sector bank, corporation bank. uh, and we got that money by leveraging or mortgaging the Luminous brand. Not many people know this, but we actually mortgaged the brand to raise capital for putting up a factory. uh, so which means that we had put in everything that we had earned by that time to make that one decision of making batteries that we had never done before. So yeah, I mean, in life of entrepreneurs, I think those turning points come when you have to go with your gut, and you have to believe in what you're trying to do, and you have to take risks that look absolutely absurd to take. Those things happen. And but then if you do it right, and if it turns out right, sometimes, both of those things have to come together. Providence also has a role to play. Then you get it right, then it just changes the game for you. And we did that one decision, with after some struggle, after starting that plant, it got us got us going. And then the plant came up in 2006, when we were roughly about 100 crores in revenue. We then raised some private equity money for the first time in our life. This is after we had spent 18 years in existence, uh, as a self-funded venture. And then that money propelled further growth. And from 2006 to 2011, the business grew from 100 crores to 1250 crores. And then, we ended up selling a majority stake to Schneider Electric in 2011. And then all of it got sold in 2017 when we exited it completely. So that's the history of that venture.
Sorry. Okay. Uh, I want to kind of zoom in a little bit more on this journey. Um, what was your supply chain like? I mean, was it like contract manufacturing or
No, no, no. So we
for the
have been,
inverters?
no, we were making it internally. So we had a manufacturing, so we were doing a full Monty, right from design of the product to manufacturing, sales, service, distribution, branding, everything. So it was a typically full blown consumer durables operation. Uh, the reason, and we at various times we have toyed with the idea of contract manufacturing during the journey, and it does make sense in bits and pieces. But if you are looking at a cycle of innovation and development which is fast, and if you give high emphasis on certain uniqueness in what you make, then those capabilities that you have to build are best kept inside than outside. So even though it might not be a cost based decision, it can be a decision based on the other things.
Okay. Okay. Got it. Got it. What did you learn in in those like when you were at that 70 crore turnover in 2005, when you were on the verge of taking that bet to build batteries?
Yeah,
By that time you would have got some lessons as an entrepreneur, building up a full stack consumer durables company. What were some of those learnings which you'd had, and how did they give you the conviction to build the batteries,
sure,
to invest in the battery plant?
sure. No, so here's the thing, right? So my personally, I mean, so every entrepreneur learns different things, right? And that's kind of a reflection of who they are in some sense in terms of people, human beings. And for me, given my value system or given my upbringing, it was always about trust, relationships, and rewards. So I mean, so responsibility, relationships, and rewards is my philosophy. So you have to be responsible entirely to whatever you are committing to, and there is no ambiguity in that responsibility. uh, then there is relationships. The biggest capital on in any business, especially if you are running a brick and mortar business, the biggest value that you have or biggest capital that you have, which is not possible to buy with money in a short period of time, is relationships. It could be with your suppliers, with your own people, it could be with your channels, whatever. So that, and the third piece is rewards. So if you are having relationships, it can't be rewarding only to one side, it has to reward both sides. So if you get those three right, that's the portion we have. So by the time we were at 70 crores, we were small as a company, but we were very deep in terms of our relationships internally and externally, and we had enormous amount of confidence in whatever we had built in terms of people as well as in terms of networks. So that said, we felt that now the risk is controlled to being able to execute on making the product. Once we get it right, everything else will fall in place, and it turned out to be right. And I think that was our reason to take that bet. That's where the confidence came from.
Okay, got it, got it. What did you? Your primary sales channel was through dealer network, like that was the way
Yes,
you.
it was purely through dealer network. Yes.
And what did you learn over there, like in terms of how to drive sales? Like you told me, from 70 you went to 100 crores, which is like a close to 50% jump in a year.
Yeah, and
Uh,
then from 100 to 1250 crores in 5 years.
yeah, which again you must have been like almost doubling or close to that
Yeah,
every
it
year.
was. So we had a very interesting history of that company. It had been growing for 23, 24 years. Every 8 year period was a 40% CAGR from
Wow,
zero to whatever level, and then next 8 year and the next 8 years always was 40% CAGR.
amazing.
Uh, and and the interesting stuff is that's the reason why that business was owned 90% by us when we exited. So the even though we had a private equity investor who put in the bulk of the capital, we had 90% ownership of the company when we exited. So because it was generating enough cash to grow on its own steam, uh, and it was growing consistently. There was no big, I mean, 40% is a great growth rate, but there was no real doubling every year type of growth. I mean, it was, you know, very contained and sustained growth.
Yes, yes, absolutely.
Yeah.
What worked in sales? Was it like
No, so
you
what
had a
worked in
good
sales is great product, great service that you can't go wrong with. That's hygiene. We invested on the brand, also was decently required. I think what tipped the things in our favor was the energy that our people and our channels put behind our brand. Because they were, they were an order of level higher in commitment to this brand than you would find in the competing brand. So that is a differentiator in my view.
which comes from relationships,
That comes from relationships and respecting their responsibility and rewards
rewards,
with the
right?
relationship. Yeah.
Right, right, right. Amazing, amazing. Okay, this is a good mantra. Responsibility, relationship, reward. Amazing. Okay, uh, the PE money that you got on, how did you like? How did it happen? Did you appoint an investment banker,
Yeah,
or
yeah.
because
So in 2006, we appointed Kotak as our banker, and they did whatever they did, and then we had about, I think, 5 term sheets in a span of 6 7 months that process took. And we went with CLSA Capital Partners as our investor. They were a good name to have, and they were willing to give us a structure where we had to dilute less if we did better. And we had very high confidence in our own ability to deliver on a higher level, which was not visible based on historical performance. So we took that over a safer bet where we would have had to dilute a little more, but would have had no pressure of delivery. So that's how we took CLSA in. That was in 2007, and in 2011, 4 years later, they exited about with 3x of their investment in a span of just 4 years. They were
wow,
happy.
wow. Okay, okay. Uh, how did why was batteries a game changer? Like, how did
Sorry,
it help?
uh, how is that a game changer? No, it
Yeah,
it allowed it bankrolled the infrastructure that had already gotten created. It got bankrolled with performance of delivery because now you had capital. Now you were able to do things that otherwise you were constrained in terms of your ability to execute.
okay.
But if in hindsight, if I had taken that money maybe 10 years earlier, we could have done that maybe a little bit faster. Maybe 4 or 5 years could have been shaved off out of the 23 years in the outcome. But in this situation, we've diluted much lesser. And from a founder's standpoint or from our employees who held the ESOPs, their standpoint, I think we had a better outcome by delaying that fundraise. Although I mean, this is hindsight, so you never know. If it didn't all work perfectly, it might not have been so good a
True,
story to tell, right? So
true, 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 true. Uh, why was batteries a game changer? You started manufacturing
yeah,
batteries.
because that gave us control over our end-to-end product, and therefore we were in a position to differentiate our offerings a lot better. We were able to deliver clearly better performance compared to our competitors, who were at that stage, by the way, in 2006, bigger than us. So there were two competitors at that time, Microtech
Who?
and Sucam.
Okay.
There was a brand called Sucam and there was a
Yes.
brand called Microtech. Both of them were significantly larger than us, more than 2.5 times bigger than what Luminous was at that time. Uh, and we were coming from behind, although we knew that our foundations were infinitely stronger than theirs, but we were smaller. So that stage when we raised the capital, we could leverage our foundations to grow at a very, very rapid pace. And we had no looking back because it just worked like clockwork. Everything was in place already. So the moment we started pushing the gas on the pedal on the gas, it just took off after that.
Yeah. How did batteries help create a differentiated product, like
Because
the
you're in a
shape and
power
size?
backup. You're in a power backup system, right? So the battery is the heart of that power backup system. We were buying them from Exide, so we had only so much ability to have Exide develop a product that we would want from them. Whereas when we started doing it ourselves, we knew exactly what we want, and we built products that gave a better performance in terms of life, backup, charge acceptance, everything to our customers. And therefore, the brand got differentiated, and people realized that this product works better. And that gets you started, right? I mean, at the end of the day, consumer is in a durables business. He's buying something that solves for a problem, and if you are doing that much better and distinctly better than someone else, then that gives you an edge.
So when 2011, when Schneider came in with a majority stake, what was your thinking behind it? Like, why did you want to give control
No, so
away?
so so we were going through an IPO process again with Kotak as our banker.
Okay.
We had started to look at preparing for an IPO. And then it just so happened that we had a large buyout fund. I can't name them right now, but they came in and put a term sheet, and then eventually did a diligence and were ready to sign agreements to buy 90% of the company. I had gone through personally a little bit of a health scare at that time. Uh, in 2010, it was over, but that made me realize that I had all my eggs in one basket, and that basket could be a risk that is disproportionate risk concentration. So I kind of that kind of opened me up a little bit to an idea of selling the business. Otherwise, the plan was to list it. And then that private equity fund was somewhere in the middle of closing the final agreements with us when Schneider got in touch with us and made some quick offer. And since we were anyway going to sell control, uh, we chose to go with Schneider because we felt that would be a better place for the business to be housed in, rather than a private equity fund.
Right. Yeah. I mean, it would be like synergistic acquisition for them. They would want to invest and grow it in the long
Yeah,
term.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah.
Whereas for a
No, so we
PE, the
ran
goal
it as
would
a
be to.
joint venture. We were together in that company. We owned 26% of the company till 2017. So we stayed invested in the business for another 6 years after selling majority. So it got run as a joint venture for a good 6 years. Got grew to a much bigger size from where we had started, and then we finally decided to exit because once you have sold majority, someday you have to exit. So that I think
Right. Right.
was
Right.
was what happened in 2017.
Uh, did you feel uh, constrained in terms of the entrepreneurial spirit once you're part of a bigger organization? The decision
No, so
making
I was
gets.
not. No, so I was not running it. I was
Okay.
the chairman of the company, but
Okay.
non-executive. I was very much involved in the direction, but not
The,
running it. So
right. Got
therefore,
it.
no constraints on my own. I would not have done. I wouldn't have been a CEO in a minority owned business. That I wouldn't do. Uh, I couldn't do it even when I was 21 years old in 1983. I wouldn't have done it in
Right.
2012. No way.
Right. Okay. Okay. And what was the turnover by 2017 when you sold the remaining?
I think like I don't remember exactly, but it was above 3,000 crores.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
And it would have overtaken Microtech and Sucam. I think
Oh,
Sucam
that had
is
that had
not yet.
happened in 2011 itself.
Okay.
So by
Okay.
that time, it was already bigger than those two guys. We were almost twice the size of those two guys at that time. And then I think Sukham eventually fizzled out. It went into uh, bankruptcy protection, that whole process and all of that. Microtech is still alive and well. They are doing what they're doing.
The how is the market doing? Because inverters as a category existed because of poor infrastructure, right? Like India's power
Well, I
delivery
mean,
infrastructure was poor.
well, it's still doing quite well. In fact, we have another business called Livguard, which we started in 2015, which is also now that we are free from all our obligations. Since 2018 or 2019 onwards, that business also does solar and inverter business besides their other activities. So that company is in that business now. And all of these companies are actually growing. So Livguard grew from inception in 2015 to being about $500 million business in 8 years' time. Uh,
Wow.
because that whole energy storage, energy transition business is a very large opportunity over the next 20, 30 years, I would think.
Yeah,
So
and
yes, sorry, the infrastructure is improving, but the nature of the usage of energy generation and storage is changing, but the market is actually growing, not going down.
I'm guessing the consumer durable inverter sales must be coming more from tier two now, right? Because in
Tier
tier
2,
one,
3, 4, 5, and rural.
right? Yeah, because tier
I
one
would
the
take it
problem is solved.
all the way to the rural markets.
Right. Okay. With increasing affluence, they would want uninterrupted
Absolutely,
power. Uh,
absolutely, absolutely.
okay. Okay. Got it. Okay. What was Luminous worth when you sold the remaining 26% in 2017?
I don't remember exactly, but somewhere in the 3,500 crores range.
Wow, amazing. Okay, so tell me about LivePure. What did it start when you started LivePure? You were still owning that stake in Luminous. So what did you
Yes.
start it as? What was the idea behind starting it?
So the Live Pure history is like this: that as part of our Luminous business, we had just just started a small activity in one state in Punjab around water purifiers, because it was our thesis that just like energy deficit is a problem, there is a problem of water quality in drinking water quality, which is quite secular in nature. It's hard to fully settle. Even when you have piped water available in every house in the country, which may be some time away, but will happen, it is during the delivery process from source to delivery point, there is still a lot of contamination, and therefore there will be a water purification market at point of use, which is quite secular in nature. We had,
Sorry, one
yeah,
question.
sorry.
What do you mean when you say it is secular in nature? What does that term mean?
People will not stop drinking water, that's for sure.
Okay.
uh, and infrastructure cannot be refreshed every day for keeping the delivered water clean, even though you may start from clean water.
Okay. Right.
So which means that this is a market forever, more or less.
Okay.
uh, it may
So
change in terms of what is the technology being used at the other end, but the need for something like this is never going to end.
got it. Okay.
So
Okay.
it's a very large, really, really long term opportunity. There are very few consumer durable businesses that can say that we will be around even 100 years from now.
Right. Yeah.
Right.
Absolutely.
So that's the kind of business it is. Therefore, and that is why it is such an attractive business uh, for every company that has an ability to innovate, has a brand, has a distribution, has wanted to do this. Right.
Yeah. Right from Hindustan Unilever, which is an FMCG
Everybody.
company,
So I mean,
getting into it.
I can
Yeah.
name 40 names that have
Yeah.
tried,
Yes.
of large
Absolutely.
companies, and all
Absolutely.
global players. Everybody from LG to Philips to AO Smith to
Usha.
Whirlpool to Usha to Crompton to, no, you can name it. Everybody has done it.
Absolutely.
Havells
Yes.
to
Yes.
whoever.
Right. Right. Yeah.
Literally everybody. Blue Star. There is not a
Yeah.
single large consumer durable name who has not tried doing water purifier.
Right.
Right.
Yes.
So Onida even.
Yeah.
So, like literally everyone.
Hmm.
Right. So why is it like that? It's not a large market. It's comparatively speaking a very small market. from a durables category standpoint. I mean, an air conditioning market is about 20 times bigger than water purifier market in value terms.
Why is that? The price of the product is lower.
Right, and the number. So
Right,
in a
only
in
one per household.
one per
AC could be like
household, and
three
then,
per household.
yeah,
Okay.
and so on, so forth. So the point is that we had just started it in Luminous, and as part of our transaction with Schneider, we had carved out this business because they didn't want to continue with it, and we carved it out and we said, "ठीक है, इसको हम कर लेते हैं." So we moved it out, and in fact, originally it started as, even after carve out, it was first few months, it was sold as Luminous water purifier, and in fact, there was even a television commercial we ran as Luminous water purifiers after carving it out, because we had rights to use it till 2016, the brand. Uh, but then very early on in 2012 itself, we decided, or 13, I think, when we started to launch the product, we decided that we have to give this a new life. And water purifier is only a starting point. And our purpose for building a business like this is to bring wellness, health, and comfort into consumers' life. That's the purpose, and make it affordable, make it wide, and improve the quality of life for consumers. This is our purpose. So it is not limited to just water purifiers. That's a starting point for the platform. It will eventually grow and move into other areas. So we have to coin ourselves a brand that reflects what we want to do, and that's how Live Pure brand was born. Because it somehow has a ring to it which is broader than just water. It is about life. It is about living well and living pure and whatever else that is there around it. So that's how the brand was born, and we started to work with water purifiers. We put up a manufacturing unit. We innovated the product a little bit. Took about a
Okay.
year and a half,
When
and
did you
then
put up the manufacturing unit?
this was done in Manesar.
Okay. Which year?
This is 2014,
Okay.
13, 14.
Okay. So after the pilot, you pretty
Yeah,
much
after the
went
pilot, when
all
we
in.
took over, we started to put up a factory. So Manesar mein we put up a plant. It is probably even now the most integrated water purifier manufacturing plant. So we do everything from making pumps to making membrane rolls to filters, even injection molding of edible grade plastics. So everything, so that we make sure that what we make is a really, really good quality product, and that it can still be done at an affordable cost. So that's the secret sauce of Live Pure, and it does, and we have benefited out of that. That whole investment that we made in the ability to create a good product. And it was actually front loaded, the investment. This time around we were a little liberal on capital dosage because we had the capital to invest. So we took strong measures to build a base, a foundation for the brand. So 3 4 things we did with the brand. One is build very deep integration in terms of quality and cost on the product development side. Then second thing we did was build a service network which is very well automated, which was our own. So LivePure is actually the only water purifier brand that installs every single water purifier that we sell ourselves. Even though the product is sold by a distributor to a dealer, or maybe an online platform, or whatever it might be, but the installation is done by the company or its franchisee. So we have 100% data of every one of our customers, and we know exactly who he is, how is he going doing, we are connected with him, and so on. So we built a deep sort of capability around service. This is something we had learned from our early experiences at Luminous as well. So we managed to put a very strong service network, very strong product, good innovation around the product and its quality. And then we invested in the brand deeply. In fact, Sachin, this time around, decided to become a shareholder with us. So he was actually a shareholder in Livpure, and we did a 5 6 year contract for a small part of the Livpure equity, which he held till I think 7 years. Finally exited a couple of years back. He still is our brand ambassador, but but he sold out his equity now. But he had some shares in the company. So we invested deep, got the product right, got the service right. Initially, the company started as a brick and mortar go to market, model like what we were used to doing. So we built channels, distribution everywhere. The distributors we started with, most of them still work with us even now after all these years. Uh, Again, the same principles, nothing new. But what changed, what we did differently this time around in Livpure is that somewhere around 2017, I think we decided that we have to create an omni-channel play. So first 5 years of the life of the business was brick and mortar. It's like a typical durables company. The next 5 years, or first 6 years and the next 6 years, second 6 year period, was converting a brick and mortar business into an omni-channel digital first business. This is what has
Okay.
happened over the next 6 years. So between
Okay.
18 and 20, 17 and 23, that last 6 years of existence is completely transforming the business from being 100% revenue coming from physical channels. Today we are at about 35% revenue coming from physical channels, 65% of our revenue. So it's 35% from physical channels, 35% from digital channels, and 30% from recurring revenue as for product as service. So we have now it's actually very little. I mean, we're pretty publicity shy, it looks like, because very few people talk about this brand, but it's a brand which is this year going to be a 600 crore revenue brand, profitable, omni-channel brand, digital first, with product as service business model proven to a significantly large scale. So we have over 250,000 customers who, by the end of this year, we'll have a 250,000 customers who are paying for the product as a service. And that is, orders larger than anyone else in product as service business in any category, not just in water purifier. So it's a very interesting build out. We started in 2018, refined the model, built the tech stack. It is full stack play. Everything is covered in that, all the way from payments to, you know connectivity to cloud analytics. The whole 9 yards is there, and we have embedded the water purifier in that. And now that platform is so good that we can actually think of building other product categories into service on that platform. So it's an interesting build out over the last many years. Now it's even profitable. So that business took us a little while to build, but it's a profitable business now,
Okay.
and it's self-sustaining.
I'm going to zoom in on how you did the transformation post 2017, but quick understanding of where were you at in 2017? What kind of revenue were you at 2017?
About 120 odd crores, I would say.
Okay. And I wanted to ask you a couple of questions based on what you had spoken about. Do you think the reason why you got success versus all the 50 other brands which were also attempting it was in-house manufacturing?
Well, I mean, I think that played a part, but I think this is a business. One of the reasons why we got success is because we stayed with it. So we were very persistent. We took 10 years to turn the company around and make a profit first time around. 10 11 years actually. And we continued to stay committed to the build out all through that long journey. right? We have two private equity investors along the way. One of them has exited, the other one is still there. Uh, we continued to be committed to the venture all the way, and we have never allowed ourselves to get diluted after the first two rounds. So we have made sure that we have actually accrued more, whatever we could find. Whoever was selling, we have bought, and we have built our. We have demonstrated. We have put our money where our mouth is, because we believe that something like this, gets takes a long time to build. It's payback in durables businesses is a back-ended affair. It doesn't happen in the front end, uh, and the longer the build out period, the higher the hurdle, and therefore the longer the terminal value of the business, the higher the terminal value of the business, because it's that much harder for someone else to come and build it, and it just keeps getting harder as you progress over time, right? So
Fascinating. Um, so what you're saying is, in the consumer durable space, you it needs a lot of upfront investment, and it also needs a lot of time to learn how to create a good quality product. That's why the payback is backloaded.
yeah, I mean, it takes time to win consumer confidence. It takes time to build scale. You have to develop a brand. You have to innovate on the product consistently. You have to manage the service operations, which are hard to manage on a small scale in terms of effectiveness. So there are plenty of odds against a new entrant, right? Now, the question is, if you take this approach that I'm going to enter a category or a bunch of categories just because I have some route to market access, which is what most of these other brands had in plenty, much better than we had, in terms of the brand recognition, in terms of the distribution, in terms of even money to invest. But the question is, do we have the commitment to go all in into a category and create real reason to win, uh, innovating in product, business model, and capital allocation, all three. Whether you can actually do it for long enough to succeed, that's the question. And I mean, I wouldn't be nonchalant on this, but along the years, over 11 years, many times we felt, are we in the right space, or do we have it in us to keep supporting it? But then, of course, you know pride takes over for entrepreneurs. They and conviction both, and you keep doing what otherwise looks stupid to do.
Okay, amazing. How much did you dilute to private equity?
So we start at peak. We had about 20 odd % outside our ownership, ours and our ESOP pool. Uh, I think we are right now we own most of it. So we have one private
Wow.
equity investor left, who who will exit whenever they get the right return, and that is a good thing. We are happy to have them. Want them to make a good return. But we believe that we are building this for a much longer period. So the horizon with which we are building it is much longer, which is why we chose a difficult category, which is relatively small but has a very high brand connectivity. So because you drink water, you don't really trust something that, if you can trust the brand for water purification, it's easy to trust it for a lot of other things.
Uh, yeah, I mean, I get that. Like, it's difficult to win trust, and I mean, AquaGuard is a classic example. It's spent decades building trust. Though Eureka Forbes has not been able to diversify much beyond AquaGuard, right? Like,
Yeah, but that's different for Live Pure, and and we have actually pretty successfully managed to start green shoots in 3 4 different adjacent categories, which is again around health, wellness, comfort, and we are seeing good response and good build out in all of those other categories. And AquaGuard, maybe there is something in the name actually. It is just way too tightly associated with water. One of the reasons why we never used anything related to water in LivePure when we were coining the brand was this: that if you make it about water, then then it's hard to get out of that category.
Right, right, right. Okay. Let's talk about that transformation journey. And I'm assuming that you became profitable last year. You said it took you 10 years to become
This
profitable.
this 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 year.
This year. Okay.
Yeah,
Okay.
this
So,
year.
how did that transformation journey happen 2018 onwards, and how did it make you profitable?
No, so it didn't make us profitable to begin with. We had to take actually higher losses for a few years. Uh, about, I think we took higher losses for 3 years. Then it started coming down last year, and now it's turned the corner.
Why higher losses? You were
Higher losses
investing in
because, yeah, you have to
software.
invest in building the new category, new GTM channels and their stacks and other things. So I think the three things we did there were, a, we started with a deep relationship with Flipkart to start with, and then eventually last 2 years even with Amazon. We went deep. We helped the partners build a ecosystem. In the category build out of water purifiers, we helped Flipkart for the platform itself. So, as a result of which, we created a space for ourselves. We created a specific product portfolio that we sold on these channels, and therefore, both of us got real velocity.
Why did
We
you have to create a different portfolio for Flipkart as opposed
Because
to what your dealer network is
their
selling?
customers' expectation of value proposition is different than what the customer who goes and looks for a touch and feel and wants a certain extra set of package. So more layered services, more layered features is what is the expectation in, let's say, a chroma outlet, compared to, let's say, a customer buying it on Flipkart. So
But I mean, a water purifier is I mean, it's not a very complex product, right? Like, how did you differentiate between what your dealer was selling and what you were selling on Flipkart?
no, no. So there is a lot of differentiation. It starts from the degree of fortification of the water post purification. It can go to hot and cold. It can come up with other display and interface UI features. So around that you can have a copper tank to have a fortified water. There are multiple ways you can do product slicing based on segmentation. And this is where, the fact that we had over 1 million customers that we have installed our own product in their homes ourselves, we got to know a lot of things that usually which you will not know if you were just selling the product and someone else was installing it, right? So
What were some of those things that you learned through
you
self
learn
installation?
the nuances about, like, for example, in south of India, copper is a big deal because there is a history of people believing that if you drink water out of a copper vessel, it's good for your health,
So you
right?
you could design a water purifier with a copper tank.
Which is fortified with copper. Then,
Okay.
so all kinds of insights of this nature you could get out of dealing. So consumers tell you a lot of things, sometimes explicitly, sometimes not so explicitly. And if you are in direct touch with consumers, this is what D2C today is, a fashionable term, but at the end of the day, D2C really means that you are in connect with your customer, whether you go digitally or otherwise. If you know what your customer wants and is who he is, then you can actually take those insights into the product journey, right?
Right. In a way, you're like the original D2C founder, right? Because Luminous also was installing on its own. So, irrespective
Correct,
of who was
correct.
selling,
So
the
correct, yeah,
service and the installation was done by Luminous itself.
correct.
And the same thing has continued here at Livpure.
Yeah, I mean, of course, the D2C founders of today are actually, I mean, they're much smarter. They have much more data about their consumers than we have. But 80-90% of the insights you can get actually with very little data, if you are in touch and if you are listening. Uh, and if you can even use that 90% effectively, you can still create a lot of differentiation.
Right, right, right. So, your Flipkart range was essentially more value for money.
It was on target for what the customer wanted. It was actually not a inferior spec. It was actually a good spec made available without the frills.
Okay,
And
okay.
Flipkart did their job of taking it to making it known, and therefore what we would have otherwise had to spend in terms of reach, we both of us decided to give it away to the customer, and as a result of which that category got built on Flipkart. And then of
Okay.
course we did everything else, and today we are they have other brands selling there. We are also a fairly sizable part of their portfolio even now. And then in last 2 years the same has happened on Amazon as well. It took us a little while, but we are getting there on Amazon. So it's now Flipkart, Amazon, other digital platforms, uh, bringing in about 35 odd percent. We have our own D2C operation directly from our own website, a full stack of that. So we're fully built out as a D2C platform, or rather as an omni-channel platform, where a customer can pretty much have a seamless. There's work to do, but a lot has been done in terms of how it is. So right now, 35% of our revenue is offline, available through all channels. 35% of our revenue comes from digital channels, and the rest of the 30% is product as a service, where we have our own D2C site where we offer you a subscription of water purification in your own place. So you pay 1500 rupees or 4500 rupees depending on whichever plan you choose. It's a deposit, refundable deposit. uh, that's all you have to pay. And somebody will come to your place, install a water purifier which is cloud connected. uh, we will allow you to draw water out of that water purifier in your own house. You don't have to buy jars. uh, and if you keep paying every month, the service will continue. If you don't pay, it will get disconnected like a telephone or an electricity bill. And you keep paying every month, and you keep using the water purification. It's priced in a way that it is absolutely a no brainer. So a typical water purifier of AquaGuard, if you buy today, you end up paying about 5,500 a year or 5,000 a year in AMC, right, after the warranty is over. And for 550 rupees a month, you don't need to buy a water purifier. You will get purified water through a machine installed in your house, which you can kick me out of your house the day you don't like me.
Uh,
So,
and
so
this is like unlimited usage. There's no like
yeah, it's
550
more.
rupees for
Yeah,
up to
no. So
X
there are
liters.
there are lower plans for limited usage, but 550 rupees is for unlimited use.
Okay, okay, okay. Phenomenal. Uh, eh, what do you see default here? And by default, it could be that
So
someone
now
did
it is
pay
a
or
now it's a 5-year-old operation. We have we have gone through about 200,000 customers already. Uh, we do have some default, but it's nothing to nothing to be scared
single
of or
digit
worried about.
percentage.
Well below, very low single digits.
Okay, which is extremely good. I mean, essentially, like the best NPA rate a bank can have is low single digits, which is similar to
Right.
what
So
you
it
have.
is lower than an NBFC NPA rates. Let's put it that
Yeah.
way.
So this, do you finance it further, or this sits in your books? I
No,
mean,
so the assets are, we have small part of the assets are on operating lease, but a large part of the assets are on our books. And
what does that mean? Sorry, can you break it down? When you say small
so you
part
can
of the
either
asset,
buy an asset and get it financed, and it becomes an asset on your book, and you take amortization on your own books.
that's a
Or
EMI, like someone buying on EMI,
uh, no, slightly different. So an asset is owned irrespective of who's financed by somebody, right? So
right?
if I buy a asset in my company, so the asset is owned by the company.
Hmm,
Now it
right.
may be financed by a bank, or it may be financed by an NBFC or whoever else has given me a loan. That's a term loan against the finance of the asset.
Hmm,
But the
right.
asset still belongs to the company, and it is amortized by the company year after year.
Okay.
So we have, let's say, 85% of the assets under this subscription business are on our own books. 15% of the assets are in operating lease. So operating lease is given by financing companies that run operating lease business, people like Tata Capital and others, who buy the assets on their books and provide the asset to our company at a monthly operating lease, and we use that asset to run our business. Customer pays to Livpure pays to Tata Capital, whatever it has to pay, but the whole operation of the business still remains with Livpure.
Okay. Why why do you do this? Because I mean, it's such a small percentage. You said 10-15% is operating lease.
No,
Why do
so
this?
over time we would like to increase the operating lease percentage, because there is no point in keeping the assets on your own books if there are people whose job it is to keep the asset on their books will do it.
Right, you're
Uh,
blocking your working capital.
Not working capital. We are actually getting it financed. It's a differences between an asset being on your book versus it's not being on your book. So as we grow much larger, if you have millions of customers, you don't want to keep on increasing your capex. You want to convert capex into opex, just like what you are doing for the customer. You are doing for the customer, you are converting capex into opex. So it is only logical that over a period of time you will convert your capex into opex. And but it needs confidence building. People have to see outcomes metrics. As now we have those metrics in place and a lot of confidence is building up, we are getting those kind of people coming on board and taking on those assets on operating lease.
Okay, got it. So right now it's a small percentage because it's like a pilot, and eventually
It'll
all
grow.
further purchases you would want a bulk of it or all of it to
Yeah,
be.
with time it will grow. I mean, as we move, it'll grow. And also it depends on how much free cash flow you have got in the company. If you have enough capital getting generated in the company, you don't have productive use for it, instead of it going out, you will put it back into the business and generate a better return for your shareholders.
Right, right, right. Okay, okay. Um, a couple of questions about the distribution. 35% of your business's digital sales. What percentage of that is your own website?
Oh, not a whole lot. I would say 5 out of 35.
Okay, okay. And does the economics work out better when it's your own website,
No,
or
no way. No
because
way.
your
It is
customer acquisition cost is very
cost
high?
is always going to be higher. That is an experiential story. So you do it on your own website because you want to know more about your customer and you want to prove something well before it is scaled up on some other larger platform.
Okay, like launching a new model or
Yeah, getting,
schemes and
getting direct feedback of anything
right. Okay,
and figuring out whether it is working or not working. You do it yourself and then you transfer it onto the larger platforms.
okay, okay. Got it, got it. And your physical sales is again 35%. What is the split here between like modern format chain
So
stores
I
and
would I would say modern format chain stores put together about 7-8%, 7-8% through more institutional retail channels like army canteens, this, that, and all of that, all kinds of institutional retail formats, and the rest 25, 22, 23% general trade.
okay, okay. Generator still dominates. Okay,
No,
and
that
this
has to be
is
because that's a much larger access to consumers.
okay, okay, okay. Got it. Interesting. Okay. You said that you've done work in allied product categories. Can you talk about that? What all products have you
So
launched? You
so
said health,
now
wellness, comfort.
Yeah, so now Livpure has air vertical where we have air coolers already in place. We have also sold some 25,000 smart energy efficient air conditioners largely through Flipkart platform, which is now we are getting seeded well. We are working on it to further refine our portfolio. So these two, that's relatively a small volume for us, but it's something which is in the I mean it's a large enough pilot though, where we have demonstrated a very unique product proposition. Then there is a sleep category that we have got. So Livpure has a mattress category which is only on Amazon and Flipkart. We don't do it in other channels yet, which is also right now growing from 2 crores a year 2 years back to about 4 5 crores a month as we talk, uh, building up. People have accepted that brand, and that happens without a single dime in investment in marketing for the category on the platforms. So that's a natural affinity consumers are having for that brand with the category. So we do all those tests on the platforms as we go around, so that's the beauty of digital platforms. You can do a lot of stuff with, without really going mass. Then
Okay.
we are working on introducing energy efficient fans in the air category and air purifiers.
So these are all very very big markets, each of these, right? Like fans, air conditioners, mattresses, these are all massive categories.
Correct.
Are you doing too much at the same time?
Well, I mean,
And
I
because
have
you've been
worried.
very focused so far.
I agree. I agree. No, I mean we've been focused till 2020 before COVID, and then we started moving into these categories. Actually, we had started moving into them in 2019, but then COVID happened, and some of these things got a little shelved. Uh, you know, it was always intended to be a brand that encircles health, wellness, and comfort. Now the question is, are we biting off too much? I mean, I worried about it for first 8 9 years of my existence as Livpure, and didn't bite anything except for getting ready in terms of tech and all that. But eventually, we found this whole digital GTM a very nice way of figuring out what consumers think. We can think in our wisdom that consumers don't want us to be outside of this, but consumers in their wisdom can think, no, this is the rightful place for you to be. And actually, we were motivated by Flipkart a lot because their testing of their consumer traffic was telling us that you should be in A, B, C, D categories. And then we did small trials in each of those categories, and we are finding that not all, but most of them, the consumers are receiving it quite well.
uh, how did Flipkart arrive at this conclusion that Livpure as a brand should exist in mattress category, for example?
So I honestly don't know exactly how they arrive at that conclusion, but
Maybe there is some search traffic, like people are
no,
searching
they
for
do,
Livpure
they do, yeah. So
in
they have
mattress.
they have their own mechanisms of figuring out what the consumers are looking at. Why they tell the brands, I can tell you, because they want each of their critical or strategic relationships to expand. So
Right.
if with LivePure they expand into 5 other categories and succeed, their portfolio with us gets bigger, our commitment to them gets bigger, their commitment to us gets bigger. So that rationale is well understood. But how they exactly find this out, honestly, I don't know the answer to that.
This is fascinating. Um, okay, so are you manufacturing all of these in-house, mattresses,
No, no,
fans,
no,
ACs?
no. We are not manufacturing fans. We are, because that you have to manufacture internally.
Why is that?
Uh, yeah, because the level of innovation cycle in terms of creating electronics and motor design improvements is very sharp and very quick, and that you can't do unless you have control over it. And that we do want, and we want to have that control, and we are building that. So it's everything from product development, technology stack, everything is ours. uh, Mattress, we do finishing. We don't We do the
What does that
final.
mean?
So
Finishing?
the final piece of mattress manufacturing happens internally, but we don't do foam and various other things. The raw materials that are required to go into a mattress, a lot of people do. The larger offline mattress brands do that. We don't do that. We buy those foams out of the people that make it for us. So it is a hybrid model for mattress. For coolers and air conditioners, we make the controllers, which is where our IP is, in terms of cloud managed air conditioner for energy efficiency. So my air conditioner can give you a non-noticeable difference in temperature adjustment, which will not let you feel comfort difference, but can save you up to 15-20% of your energy bill. So that's my value proposition.
Okay.
And I'm able to do that because I have algorithms built in a way that I can understand how you are reacting to the story when you use the remote for a few first 10-15 days, and then I'm able to really do it in a way that you don't feel the difference, but I'm able to optimize the energy consumption.
Amazing. Amazing.
So the
Okay.
controller and the hardware we do ourselves. The AC we get manufactured from the ODMs that do for everyone. So it really depends. I mean, where there is value added and innovation control required, we do it ourselves. And whatever somebody else can do better than us, we will do it with them.
Very interesting. Um, so in the you said it's a cloud connected air conditioner. Like
Yeah.
the user could get a stream of data on a mobile app also. Like this is the
Yes,
temperature and so on.
yes, they could.
Okay. 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 And so there's like a SIM enabled device which is transferring data real time
No,
and
it's Wi-Fi. So AC is usually in home, so you
okay.
can connect to
You don't need a
Wi-Fi.
SIM. Right.
You
Right.
don't
Right.
need a SIM for AC.
And
Uh,
it's like you can activate it through your smart speaker like a Siri or a
yes,
Alexa or
you can definitely activate it with Alexa or whatever you want. Yeah.
okay, okay, amazing. Is this a big category of smart ACs?
So it will become a big category. Right now, about 2% of the air conditioning market in consumer is in this category of smart. But I think over next 4-5 years, this will completely be a different story altogether.
What is the price differential between a non-smart and a smart AC?
So right now, the gap is in the 5-6 thousand rupees range. But I think it can come down.
Right, like what happened with TVs? It used to be a big gap until now. There is,
Yeah,
you don't get non-smart TVs anymore.
yeah, yeah.
I think
So
even
it'll
if you
come
search
down
for it.
very rapidly. It can come down.
Right, 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 right. Okay, okay, amazing. And the fan is also like cloud connected.
So the fan is connected through BLE,
What is
Bluetooth.
BLE? Okay, Bluetooth.
Bluetooth.
Okay, okay.
So it connects through your phone. Yes, it can connect to the cloud, and we do have a cloud place to receive the fan data. But most people don't quite need to connect the fan to the cloud. The fan primary requirement is energy efficiency and smart control. I think those two, we are seeing that people are not really, for a fan, an app is not really that much in play, because really speaking, consumers don't want to use apps anymore. I mean, that's not where
You
they are
just want
headed.
like Alexa to operate it. That's
Yeah,
like the
you
basic.
just want things to work. That's it. I mean, you
Right.
want you want to live your life, not play with apps. That's what it is.
Right. Right, right, right. Okay. And so in fans, you would be competing with, like, say, an Atomberg, which also makes these smart
Yeah, yeah.
fans.
So Adam Burke and everyone else, it's a it's a crowded category. There are plenty of players.
Right.
So differentiation is the name of the game. What you deliver will make a difference to what you are able to do. And it's a tough build out, but also it's a large category. And if you are able to create a differentiation, then there is a lot of longevity to businesses like that.
And how will you create a differentiation in fans?
Oh, most definitely come from energy efficiency and reliability of controls. And we come from power electronics as a background. So our ability to manage power electronics well and make it reliable is quite good. And that is what fan companies find it super hard to do, because that's not their core strength.
Okay. Right, right, right. They're more used to the mechanical design. I'm
Correct.
guessing you would be using like a BLDC motor or
No, we
something.
are only doing mainly BLDC fans, and but it's more in the controller and the electrical motor design that we have a capability which is very high. And this is not typical of fan manufacturers, because they come from more the induction motor background, so they are trying to do that.
Right, right, right. Yeah. Okay. Uh, for BLDC, I guess your controller design is a lot more important, right? For
Yes,
BLDC fans
it
to be.
is. It
Why
is.
is that?
because you can't run a BLDC motor without an effective controller. It requires, if you're giving it an AC supply and it's a DC motor, it has to run through the controller. Without that, it won't work. And therefore, the
Okay.
controller is integral to a BLDC fan. You have to have it.
Okay, okay, okay. Got it. Got it. And air coolers, do you see this as a big category? Because air coolers
We
to me
do.
seems like a
We
transitional
do.
product, right? I mean,
No, not really.
you,
We find a lot of opportunity in that. It's actually a fairly fast growing category. The problem in that business is, it's a large logistic bulk, and therefore it is not given to e-commerce as a distribution channel very easily. Although e-commerce people are doing it, but it's a very volume weighted category, so therefore very difficult for logistics to work in that category, and the rest of it is pure distribution, and therefore there is a certain market access issue. We are trying to differentiate there as well, both by design and some features. One of our core features is each of these coolers come with a smart humidity control. So we are able to actually manage the motor in a way that, and the pump in a way that it somewhat improves the humidity inside the room. So which is basically a problem with, it's not full solution, but it is significantly better experience than without it. So that's the main differentiation there.
you have a sensor to tell you what is the humidity.
Yes, yes,
Okay, the cooler has a sensor. Okay,
yes,
okay,
yes.
okay. Okay, okay. And this is again, I'm assuming like more of a tier two product than a tier one product. Like,
Not really. It sells everywhere. Coolers have a market more or less everywhere, and people tend to use it largely because of the energy consumption or repetitive recurring cost of an air conditioner. So a lot of people who have ACs at home also have coolers and tend to use coolers whenever the humidity permits coolers to be used with equal comfort. Then coolers get used, and when it is too humid outside for a cooler to be effective, that's when air conditioner gets used.
okay, okay, okay. Got it, got it. Cost of running of a cooler is significantly
Right,
lower, so
right,
therefore a market exists for it. Okay, and why mattresses? I mean, there is no tech in mattresses, right? Like
the,
all
the,
these other
the,
products have tech.
I, I can't disclose it right now, but we're working on some serious tech on mattresses.
By the time we release, you might be okay
No,
to disclose
it's
it.
some distance. It's some distance away, Akshay. So I don't want to talk about it right now. But it is around the area of smart.
Okay, like a sleep sensor which can tell you how well you slept.
I mean, it'll have some stuff which will help people sleep better.
Okay, okay. So your turnover of 600 crores, how much of it is pure water purifier?
So water link turnover out of 600 crores will be around 380 crores, and the rest of it will be from the other areas. Actually,
Got it.
400 and no, sorry, 420 crores. The rest of it will be the rest. About 180 crores out of the other.
180 crores for these new categories.
The new ventures, yes.
That's amazing. So each of these is like a significant
Yeah, they're all
venture for.
they're all getting started into becoming revenue streams, and they've already reached some critical mass.
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. The turnover is saying that. What do you see Live Pure as? Let's say 5 years down the line, what kind of top line would you be doing? Or let's say 6 years. Every 6 years you are, you have the 6 year milestone. So what's the next 6 year milestone going to look like?
I think we should be at least the 6 year milestone. I'm not sure about the revenue. I don't see it more like that. I see it uh, more from a point of view of brand love. Now the next 6 years is a brand love story for me. So now we've got the foundation in place for becoming a seriously loved consumer brand. So my next 6 years journey is brand love journey. So we want to cement the love for the brand in consumers' mind over the next 6 years. That's what I would like my CEO to aim at. I mean, I don't run the business, as you know, Akshay. I mean, I'm much more at a slightly detached level at the board, yes, but it's led by a gentleman called Rakesh Kaul, who's the CEO of Livpure. And the brief is clearly to build brand love. And of course, in the process, there will be growth. But I think I would stick my neck out and say 3 to 4 times, anywhere between that, from where we will end this year for the next 6 years
Okay, like a 2500 CR
or
kind of a,
more, depends,
or
I mean, where
right,
we land.
2500 to 3000
But it
CR.
doesn't matter. Actually, these kind of brands have a life
And
which is in perpetuity. So it you have to worry more about making sure that you do the right things than at what rate you are growing. Because see, the leverage on profitability for these brands is phenomenal because they are high
what does
contribution.
that mean? Leverage or profitability?
So at scale की जो ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज आती है एक बिजनेस को, वेयर देर इज अ हायर कंट्रीब्यूशन मार्जिन, देयर स्केल हैज अ वेरी हाई ऑपरेटिंग लेवरेज फॉर बिजनेसेस. so so these kind of businesses that are hard to build have a higher contribution margin, and once you reach break even in these kind of businesses, as you scale from there at whatever 30-40% growth, that has phenomenon, the P&L grows much faster than the top line.
Okay, phenomenal, amazing. Okay, um, if you were an investor, what would be your way of evaluating pitches which would come to you? Because you have, I mean, you have such a deep understanding of revenue, contribution margin, profitability. What? Give me some examples of what kind of businesses you would have liked to invest in, what kind of businesses you would not have invested in.
So we have a, I don't know if you are aware of this, but we have a balance sheet investing vehicle called Incubate Capital Partners, from where we do invest in private businesses. And over the last 5-6 years, we have done about 17-18 investments.
And this is
In
what,
diff-
seed level, Series A level, what level do you?
so we are a level agnostic. We can come in at seed level, and we can also participate in Series B, up to Series B. I don't think we do anything beyond. We have done one which was Series C, but we can come in at any level, wherever it makes sense. And I think, very simply, there's a good business is the second filter. A good founder is the first filter. I
Okay.
think you have to know, no matter what business you run, it is going to go through trouble, right? So what will you do when it is hitting the rough waters and stays there for a long time, makes or breaks a business for an investor? Because when you are going to get out, before that, that journey would have been traveled. So tenacious the entrepreneurs are at that kind of a situation, what is their level of commitment, I think is a critical lever for us. We look at that, and we have invested in, uh, you know, in all kinds of levels of companies, from absolute napkin paper level business plan to a big basket or an off business. Uh, you know, these are this is the range of our investment. So we can be anywhere in the curve, and some of them have played out quite well, some of them have not. But what we look for is, first is, I mean, the biggest filter for us is who is running the business, and then what business is he running. I think that's the order for us.
How
What
do
is the
you
team?
how do you judge? Do you have some uh, like like some sort of a screening process to judge about the quality of
Yeah,
founders?
it's not that formal, but I think you interact in person almost invariably, and the conversation reveals a lot of. You should know this. You do these conversations daily, so you can make out where an entrepreneur comes from, right? I mean, what are the where does he anchor when it comes to a situation to make decisions? So I think we mostly figure it out based on the value system, the behaviors, the belief system, more than even value system. Where do they come from? In general, at least for us, we would not invest in a company that is too quick, too fast in terms of expectations to break the norms and move forward somehow. That doesn't work for us. It can work for others, but it doesn't work for us. We don't feel comfortable in with that kind of a founder. And it's not that they won't succeed, it's just that it's not it doesn't work for us in terms of our understanding of founders. So yeah, that's
Right.
the biggest one for us.
Because your personal learning has been it takes 10 years to make a business profitable. So you want
I mean,
someone who's
I know, even if
patient
you look,
enough.
you're right, and if you look at your own various podcasts that you would have done with various entrepreneurs, I think there are very very few examples of great value being created in less than 10 years.
True, 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 true. And do you have a sectoral mandate that you invest in these sectors?
We don't have a mandate, but we try to stay in areas that we have some appreciation of, so that we can actually at least provide some degree of sounding board expertise to the founder, if we can. I mean, there the late stage ones, the Series B, Series C, we don't have. We are much less bothered about sectoral mandate, because by that time, I think there is a lot of ecosystem for the entrepreneur to have figured out things, and he can figure out, even if we don't understand the sector well, there are others around him who can provide the support. It's then a business evaluation more, and the founder's general evaluation. But other than that, we don't have a bias. But early stage, we will almost always stay within something that we understand.
So, like consumer products, be it consumer durables
Consumer
or fast moving.
products, energy transition, electric mobility, those are the areas we understand well.
Okay.
So that's where we would stay.
Give me a couple of examples of companies you invested in and why you invested in them.
Yeah, okay. So we have a company called Mukunda Foods, which is a company that was started by two entrepreneurs, which were supported by India Angels Network. We actually bought India Angels Network's entire stake and invested into the company about 4 or 5 years ago. These guys were doing a machine called Dosamatic at that point in time to make automating dosa making for kitchens, and they had some success. And from there, they have pivoted and turned themselves into a kitchen automation company for cloud kitchens. After we got in, and now they're quite a significant player in that space. They've had an investment round from Zomato about a year back, maybe a little over a year back, uh, where they Zomato invested in them some time back. There's another one we have in supply chain finance company, which is an NBFC, where we got a good management team and backed it up to start a supply chain finance company. Reason why we think it is something we know is because we have dealt with distribution and supply chain credit management for a very long period of time. So we kind of understand that subject well. So we partnered with these guys who were finance professionals and risk professionals, and then help them build that. They have an investment from DEG that followed. That is another example of early stage. These are all both these companies were very very early stage. In fact, the finance company was literally a napkin and a team of three people, and from there it started. And even Mukunda Foods was very early stage at that stage, but now of course it's a sizable business.
Okay, okay, fascinating. Can you share some lessons on how to build a high performance organization? How do you structure it, and do you do like an SBU structure, or do you do like a functional split up, and how do you make sure that?
I'm not sure if I should be commenting on generic structuring, because frankly speaking, it depends on what business you are running and what are your challenges. Uh, I don't know if that question can be really answered effectively, but in general, I mean, one thing I can say for sure: whatever you want to accomplish here and now and over the next 3, 4, 5 years, that should be both kept in mind while designing an organization structure. It's typically the mistake we make is we either go here and now or create something which is good for next 5 years but doesn't cater to here and now, and as a result of which you end up having to dismantle one or the other, which is where the energy is lost or momentum is lost actually.
Uh, what is like? Give me some examples of what the Luminous org structure was like. How and maybe it evolved when you made Live Pure. Your own journey of experimenting with organization structures, organization building.
Okay, so look, we at Luminous was a very founder managed company. Okay, so I was the founder and CEO of the company. Uh, I did experiment in bringing in an outside CEO in 2008. A very fine gentleman called Arun Nagpal, who's now a social entrepreneur and was very, 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 very accomplished leader. And he was the CEO from 2008 to 2010. I stepped down and became the CTO for the company, and we stayed for 2 years in that space. And he did a great job of, bringing processes and some meaningful, sustainable growth practices, etc. A lot of good stuff that he did in those 2 years, which I'm pretty sure I didn't have a clue on how to do because I had no exposure of that, right? So kind of different. Then in 2010, he himself came back and we talked, and he said, "Look, the kind of growth that there is for this company, you know, the energy of a founder is probably going to do a better job on this than bringing it down to a 20-25% growth rate. This still has steam ahead of it." So for about a year before the or less than a year actually, uh, before the sale we did to Schneider, we were actually thinking of doing an IPO. So it was in the context of doing an IPO that we had that call discussion, and we went back and I started to drive the company again. So the difference in a founder style of leadership and that of a CEO sometimes is the CEO is more constrained on how much risk to take, even if it is a mental constraint, self-imposed mental constraint. Even if it is that, there is a constraint because he's handling, uh, you know, i- it's a fiduciary responsibility of a higher order for him because he's playing with someone else's assets, so to say. Right? The founders tend to have that natural advantage: a of getting away with murder, and b also of being able to put their own assets on the block many times, especially if they are very large shareholders, which in our case was true. We were 90% shareholders. I mean, we were taking risk with entirely our own assets. So yeah, that's the nature of Luminous management team. But rest of the organization below that was very, very well structured, decently allocated to what needed to be done. In fact, to the tribute to that is that that same organization ran Luminous from 2011 till now. So in fact, even the CFO was the same. So they didn't even change the CFO till he superannuated, I think, a little while ago, a few months ago. Uh, that is how stable it was below it.
It was like a functional structure. Like there was a sales head and a marketing head and a
Everything, all the whole
finance head.
structure was in place. A large company, it was 1,250 crores in revenue when we sold it. So well set, proper structures, and the structure was good enough for it to continue in a multinational ownership for the next 10 years. So there was a good structure. On the LivePure side, what has been different, or at the new businesses that we are building, the only difference is we did not take a CEO's role from day one. So we started building these companies, except for first year or so of running a company. We brought in CEOs, put them in place, put the structures in place, and supported those CEOs to build the business rather than running it ourselves. So these businesses are way more, uh, independent of us than, let's say, a Luminous structure was when we were running it.
So, like the AC business has a separate CEO who's
No, no.
heading
So
that.
the whole of LivePure has one CEO,
Okay.
and then there is a structure below that. The whole of LiveGuard has one CEO. The whole of our EV business has one CEO.
Uh, Livguard is for which product category?
The Livguard is for all of in batteries, energy transition, solar, power backup, motor controllers, and EV drivetrains, all of that.
So you have a B2B business also in Livpure.
Yeah, yeah. So Livguard, no, this is Livguard. This is a separate company,
Oh, Livguard
uh,
is a standalone separate company.
standalone separate company
Okay.
that's actually much larger than Livpure. Actually, it's about 3,800 crore revenue.
Wow.
Uh, it's
But why didn't we
started in
talk
20.
about this?
That's okay. This is much more exciting. The Livpure story is, it's not just revenue has its own color, right? I mean, consumer businesses have a very, very long life if you do it right. I mean, these businesses have 50, 100-year life. And if you keep doing the right thing and keep evolving, these are institutions that are built for a very, very long time.
Right.
Uh,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
you
Obviously,
know,
like Hindustan Unilever is the
correct.
Unilever example of that.
Correct.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so we shouldn't just compare revenue from complexity
Mm,
standpoint. I mean, those
mm.
are two different animals. The opportunity size is different in that, and opportunity size is different here, and so on. So,
So when you launch a new product category, you have like a entrepreneurial team doing it standalone. Like you appoint a person who's running it in an entrepreneurial manner. Like say when you launched
yeah.
mattresses or ACs or
Yes, mostly. So we do a combination of many times we do a combination of internal entrepreneurs being put into the job, and many a times we also do acquihires and acquisitions to plug talent gap. So we are very comfortable doing both.
okay,
Uh,
fascinating.
we have across these various three businesses, I would say we have at least acquired about 7 or 8 entrepreneurial teams into these companies.
And this would be like a team building a product which is not scaling, and so they are open to getting acquired.
Various reasons they've got that there, and they all come for equity in some sense, and therefore they are essentially getting a larger platform to play with and resources and a management support structure which is much more, which allows them to succeed. Sometimes it works, sometimes it doesn't work. It has both pros and cons, but in any case, that talent you can't hire just like that. I mean, that
Right,
attitude is very different than hiring a talent of normal kind.
right. Let's spend 5 minutes on Livguard. When did Livguard start, and what was the journey for Livguard?
So Livguard started in 2015 and started with whatever we were permitted to do under our agreements at Luminous. We obviously could not do anything
Directly
that
competing,
was direct competing business. We didn't want to do anything like that. So we moved into those spaces that Luminous was not doing,
like
like automotive batteries and energy storage products for automotive applications was our starting point. And then
this
gradually,
was a
as
manufacturing setup. Like you were
yes,
manufacturing
yeah,
energy
the full
storage.
manufacturing setup. We started a new factory, which was started in 2015 for making 50,000 batteries a month, which is relatively a very small number compared to the big boys of the battery industry. But that was our starting point. Then we built from there, developed the product line, got it right, scaled. Today, that company makes about 500,000 batteries a month. So 10x of what we started off in. And this is significant scale.
Right,
This
and
is
these are like lithium-ion batteries for
No, no,
EVs.
no. These were lead acid batteries for. So this is competing with the Exides and the Amarons of the world.
Okay,
And we started from there, and then we moved into lithium ion batteries in 2019. We started designing and started an R&D setup in 2019 and started getting into production only in 21, 22 actually. And
okay.
now it's scaling in a meaningful way. It also
What's the
has,
split between lead acid and lithium-ion?
oh, as of now, it's more lead acid, but it's growing very rapidly on the lithium side as well. So we are looking at a 5x expansion over 1 year at this
Right,
point in time. So it's now at that stage of takeoff. We've also got a lot of R&D done in the last 3 4 years through acqui-hires, through acquisitions, through organic talent pool development. So there are about 200 people working on developing fully integrated, domestically designed, developed, and manufactured drivetrains for EVs, two-wheelers and three-wheelers.
And
So every
what's a drive train for someone who's not from
drivetrain
the industry?
is, yeah. So drivetrain means from a socket to the wheel, whatever comes in between for an electric vehicle. So you have a charger, you have a controller, you have a motor, battery, BMS, cloud analytics, the whole 9 yards of that, optimized to make the vehicle work well.
Okay, okay.
So
And who
that's
are your customers for this drivetrain?
all two-wheeler, three-wheeler manufacturers will be the customers.
Are you currently selling it, or it's
Yeah,
like
we are selling a little bit. It's early stages of revenue, but two, three customers, but it is going to expand over time.
okay? So there's again a manufacturing play. You manufacture the whole thing and supply it to a.
So yeah, so it's mainly a design and manufacturing play, and here the sales is B2B, and service is also a little bit distributed. So it's slightly different than a consumer business.
Right, 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 right.
And
Okay,
then we have a third play in Livguard, which is essentially the solar and power backup business, which is somewhat overlapping with what happens at Luminous, which is a consumer business again, and that is also a significant business, which is about
is there a consumer business in solar? I thought solar was all institutional.
no, it's a large. We do only consumer business in solar.
And what is the consumer product in solar?
So you have a home which has a roof. I can give you a net metered solar installation where you can feed power into the grid, and your energy bill will be that much reduced based on whatever you feed into the grid, based on the tariff that is agreed. So that, or you could have a power backup with that. You can store that energy and use it and not draw from the grid. So all of that. And we have a sizable business. We have I think, almost like 500 crore business in consumer solar
Okay.
in Livguard.
How do you? What's your go-to market for the solar business? How do you sell?
Distribution, standard distribution through distributor dealer network. We have about 25,000 dealers now, even at Livguard. Uh, all states in the country, everywhere it is distributed. We cover, I think, about 60%, 65%, I would say, of all tehsils in the country in terms of reach.
Okay. Okay. Amazing. And is this like is this a growing market? How big is this market for solar,
Oh,
home
solar
solar?
side of the business is a very rapidly growing market. In 2020, when we started, we had 20 crore revenue. In March 20, we are chasing 600 crore in 24. So in 4 years, you can imagine how fast it is
Wow,
growing.
massive. Okay, that's amazing. And so in this solar unit is also housed your inverters unit, like you're also
Yeah, so it
selling.
has all of that. So there is inverter batteries, there is solar panels, there is other charge controllers, etc., etc.
Hmm. Okay. I mean, there are so many products in Livguard. What do you think will be the dominant product there? Or
I think, see, Livguard is an energy transition company. So energy transition is a global phenomena. It is not our phenomena as Livguard. We are
what can you define energy transition?
so energy transition is, we have been using energy in some way, and now as a globe we are transitioning to using uh, and storing and generating energy in a different way. This is the
Essentially,
transition.
more green, like
More green. Now, energy's usage is largely, the generation is electric generation, and usage is either, you are using it for consumption of devices of any kind. It could be industrial, consumer, whatever, or you are using it for mobility, which is where the petroleum products were largely being used, or they were also being used for generating power from a diesel genset or whatever, right? So this is where you were, and now you are moving to a different environment where solar or wind or green hydrogen or whatever else is a lot more. efficient and cost effective and clean, so therefore you are going there. So mobility is also trying to move from conventional mobility to electric mobility of some sort. And consumption is also, generation is also moving towards greener sources of generation. But the problem with greener sources is that you don't have a possibility to generate on demand always. So therefore, you need to store. Therefore, energy storage is part of the energy transition story. And then the third leg for it is efficiency, which means that you consume less for the same job, which is the best way of reducing the carbon footprint first. Okay, so that is where anything, whether it is a BLDC fan or a LED light, or for that matter energy efficiency in whatever you do, there are hundreds and hundreds of business models around energy efficiency that are emerging. So Livguard sits in that energy transition space. It plays in these various pieces. In some parts, it's obviously not doing everything.
But I mean, these are all very, very big. Like inverter is, as you are well aware, is it's by itself a big category. Do you want Livguard to be competing with the Luminous and be as big, or And
Yeah,
again,
I mean, in
you're
terms of
already doing
size,
drivetrain and battery. You might as well start your own EV company.
we do have one, which is not Livguard,
Okay.
which is a separate
Okay.
business altogether. But
There's like an onion, each time I peel a layer away, I discover there's more inside.
no, so when you are a 50-year-old second time entrepreneur, there is one thing that happens,
Yeah.
which is that that you've got 15 years to build and scale whatever you want to do, and that it takes 10 years or more to scale something. So
Right.
you want to pack as much as you can in those 10, 15 years. and,
Yeah. Okay.
maybe I've gone a little overboard in that. So
Okay. Tell me about the EV company now.
no. So the EV company is still very early. It
Okay.
is making mid spec two wheelers and three wheelers, which have a bias for multi utility. So they can be used for both passenger use or personal use, as well as for you business use, so to say, B2B use,
Like logistics.
like logistics, etc. So we are there. Our focus is to develop a full stack of a fit for purpose EV or EVs models, which are backed by an energy service capability behind it, which means, so because there the range considerations and other things come in, and therefore a full tech stack around energy service, whether it is swapping, whether it is fast charging, has to support that ecosystem. So we are doing that entire ecosystem, and that's the piece in which we want to play. We don't want to play in the overall EV market because it's too wide.
Uh, isn't it the same thing? Every EV needs energy service. It's just that for some
No,
EVs,
it
the
does.
customer will
Yeah, but see, for
deal
example,
with
if you
different
use,
vendors.
true, no, but see, the point is that, let's say you use a two wheeler for your own personal use. Typically, the driving distances for personal use are very small.
Right.
So it's a known fact that an average Activa gets driven for only 600 kilometers in a month. In a month, that's all that it gets driven.
Right. Right.
So if you take a 8-year-old Activa, if you took look at 180-year-old Activas, you will find they have done 50,000 kilometers on an average. 50,
Because two
60
wheelers
maybe.
are not used for long commutes, anyways.
Right. So a personal use case, if you have a battery which is even the small size battery, you don't really need to go out for a swapping application, or you can come home and charge. You can go to office and charge. So there is really no need for an energy service business to back it. Energy service business is typically for higher utilization, and that is why we are making a product which is robust enough to handle multiple use, which can drive 2,500, 3,000 kilometers in a month, and yet survive 5 years of operation. uh, that's a very different vehicle from what has to run for 600 kilometers in a month and survive 10 years. So we want to focus on building something that is multi-use, and that's the niche in which we want to build our business, and we are focused on doing that. It's a business which now has a revenue in the range of 40, 50, for 30, 40 crores a month. uh, it's not
Which,
big yet.
which models are out? Two wheeler, three wheeler, both are out, or
One two-wheeler and one three-wheeler, that's all that is out right now.
and
The
for
rest
what
are
use
in the
case?
process. What I described, personal use
Logistics
and
and
logistics as multi-use.
like the two wheeler could be used by like say like Zomato and these kind of
Yeah, we
last
do
mile.
have everybody from Zip to EVs as a customer, including Flipkart. So those people are buying.
Yeah, last mile
uh,
deliveries basically.
Last mile deliveries, and also consumers are buying. We have dealerships and people are using
Okay,
it for personal vehicles, but also for use cases.
okay,
But
okay.
our
Like a
focus is around that.
okay, okay, okay. And the three wheeler is like competing with the, let's say this Alti Green and these kind
Three
of.
wheeler is actually, that part of the three wheeler business is not yet out. The product is ready, it's under homologation right now. It will be out later. What we have out on the road today is L3, level 3 electric three wheelers. That is L5, what Alti Green does.
What is the difference? What are these L's for?
Lower motor power and lower top speed for
Okay.
L3, higher motor power and higher top speed for L5. Level 5 is what Alti Green does.
And what is L3 used for?
Oh, everything from e-rickshaws to loaders to whatever.
Okay. 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 Got it. And what is so you want to like this would be like a Gillette model where the money comes from the razors rather than the
I'll be honest with
like
you,
the
I still haven't
plates.
figured out the business model fully.
Okay.
But I think it will have a layered up service income, which will, as we go, become much larger. Initially, it will be hardware income, which will be larger, and over time, the service income will be larger.
And you want to do battery swapping, or you want to set up fast chargers?
We are already doing some battery swapping and some fast charging. In our view, is this that it will be a combination of both.
Okay. Okay. Okay.
Because in
Uh,
that space, so if you're doing a larger vehicle, fast charging could work better. But the kind of vehicles we are talking about, the battery is not large enough to permit very sophisticated fast charging.
okay. Yeah, right. 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 Okay. 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 Uh, And why not just do battery swapping? I think battery swapping would cater to 100% of the needs, right?
No, it would no. I don't think that's how it will work. Because battery swapping is, can work only if the asset utilization is very very high in the surplus asset. So today, most battery swapping operations that are in operation today have not more than, I mean, not less than 30% of their asset stock sitting in waiting to be used. So it is
Right.
in a charge situation. With
Yeah,
that kind of
70% is on the road. Right.
So as that with no, not 70/30, is it's 30 out of 130. So maybe 100 is in use and 30
Okay.
is in the swap, in waiting to be used.
Okay. Okay.
Uh, so even with that, there is never a viable situation from a unit economics standpoint with that utilization. But as the utilization improves, the viability can come. So you have to figure out use cases and clusters where that will happen. So that can happen only for certain type of applications. It cannot happen for all applications.
Okay. So you're saying battery swapping is profitable only at scale?
Of course, anything is profitable only at
Yeah,
scale,
obviously.
but battery swapping is an asset-heavy business. It needs to be. It's all about utilization of that asset and life of that asset at the end.
But again, you could do operational lease there also, right? And
Yeah, but even that costs, right? So
okay.
when you take an operating lease, it is anyway comes to you at a fixed cost per month.
Right.
It is just
Right.
the nature of the asset treatment. Otherwise, the cost is the same.
But with battery swapping, you could bring down the cost of ownership. You could sell vehicles
That
without the
yes,
battery and
that is correct.
battery
You
as a
can.
subscription.
That you can, but why would you sell it without a battery? There is a FAME subsidy on the battery, so it doesn't make sense to sell it
Okay.
without battery.
So the subsidy is actually distorting the market, right?
A
In a
little
natural
bit.
state, you would want to do
In a
battery as a
natural
service.
state, it can work, but then we have to make sure that there is enough work done on battery and vehicle mating properly, so that you don't get into safety risks and other issues. But yeah, I mean, but it's an evolving market. It will become a mainstream market very soon
And
once this whole thing gets levelized.
what's the brand name you're selling the EVs at?
So this is called Lectrix, Lectrix. From this month onward, it started appearing in the league tables of the Vahan portal, because we started climbing up to about 500-600 vehicles a month getting finally used by consumers. It's growing up every month.